So starting off with my definitions here, a movie studio is a company producing movies, with an example being Disney. An entire new original character is a new character that is completely original and is different from any previous characters from different movies. So now, gender is like male, female, LGBTQ plus. Race is where, like, genuinely where you come from. Background is like your past, like life history. And these three things are the things we'll be debating today, whether we are going to change or not. So now, legacy, the impact of something before, something famous, something well known. An existing character is a character that's already like a thing that already exists, and a remake is a recreation of something. Now, context is that in the status quo, there are original films that have like series or like other episodes, and there are also remakes such as Snow White, for example, which changed the race. And a stakeholder, our stakeholders are cinemas, like the cinemas, the companies that own cinemas, online movie apps, and the movie studios. Our policies are that we will focus on original new things, and we win if we prove that people like characters for its originality and its legacy. Uh, so originality is key. That is my argument here. So let's start off with the first part. Why are characters like from previous characters with legacies famous, like Elsa, Moana, and Snow White, for example? It's a nice story. It's new. It was original back then. So now everyone knows it. Everyone likes it. It creates a great image of the movie studio, of the movie itself. And that image is passed down generation by generation. That's why everyone here should know Snow White now, right? That's something great, something really nice to watch. Now, why do remakes with different races or genders bad? So we have that image. That image is like our childhood, something we love, we care about. This remake are different race, different genders. It ruins this image. The story is the same, nothing interesting new happens, but it's a completely different feel. You know how when you walk into that room and you just feel like there's something completely off. There's that one person not talking. There's that one thing, that clock not ticking. It's that one tiny thing that feels off. It's not the same. No one wants to watch it anymore because it's just not what brings them happy, what brought them happy memories back then. So now why are original new things better? Because if you leave the original things back then, it doesn't ruin the image and everyone's still happy. The legacy still stays. While if you create a remake, the entire image completely goes. But now, why are original new things better? It's original and good, right? People like it. It's easier for people to like. There's nothing to compare to. There's nothing that's like, it's like more interesting than something that's repeated over and over, just with different people and different feels that don't help anything. So now, what is the impact of this? An unoriginal remakes, right? So if it's unoriginal, less people would like it. It ruins one of the only interesting things about that movie studio, right? So less people watch. It's less income for movie apps, which is forced to go into worse service. Cinemas, which are also forced into worse service, and movie studios, which receives a bad reputation, and people don't want to watch their movies anymore, and they have less money for future movies. Or if it's original, more people are interested, more people would actually watch. There would be more profit for everyone. Now let's just bring it back, okay? Because then, if it's a good movie, if it's a good movie studio, the entire memory could be tarnished with a single remake. So now let me say this: if you want a movie studio that makes profit, fame, growth, makes all the customers happy, makes the movie apps have profit, makes the cinemas have profit, the movie studios having a good reputation, then you need to pick side prop and its originality. Thank you.
So, why has this motion arisen in the first place? Disney used Ariel as a back actress that brought a lot of criticism in the international society. We think this is exactly why you should vote for our side. People think of Ariel as a white and beautiful woman with red lips and hair. We think this is a biased vision, and we think by remaking the original legacy characters, we can change these kind of biased visions in the society. So a quick characterization of the most vulnerable stakeholders we think are children who are mostly irrational and immature and are impacted the most from media. Because privileged and white children often have stereotypes about race and gender, as they have seen legendary characters as white and are like them. Especially so as child is when they get basic conception of the world, they will think as Ariel or Belle or Snow White, they're all like role models. And for minority children, they have low confidence in their race, gender identity because all the positive characters comes as white characters, as they are legacy characters, and so if we change them, it can give great impacts to their whole life and empower them too. Our stance is
No,
that we think not Our stance is that we think not only making entirely new characters, we should diversify the methods like changing legacy characters too. For their rebuttals, the proposition side said like they need to leave legacy characters as they were, or else people will don't like it. We are not focusing on the matter that we should make the remake character boring or like exactly the same as the legacy character. We're saying that the legacy characters oftentimes have very biased opinions about certain things. So therefore, by changing um not only like
TLI.
changing the entire thing can actually be the solution. Our first argument is about built-in audience. Let me tell you who will be the legacy fans. They will be fans that have watched the legacy character from the start. They will most likely expect further episodes or spin-off versions that contain the same characters. Then secondly, while they watch the new material, when the fans from long ago hear about the news that the original character is coming back, they will most likely have attention to it since they have experienced the touching storyline and the emotional impact the character has delivered to them. They will want to feel similar emotions and resonate with the same characters. Then why is this so exclusive on our side? Because if an entirely new character comes up, it is highly likely that these fans will not care about them as much because of the heartwarming memories that they felt with the original character, like the legacy characters. Even if they pay attention to new characters and new stories too, the attention that is given to the changed legacy character will gain more media presence. Another thing is that oftentimes a new character must spend years and fortunes earning fame, but a legacy character already has it. When studios cast a black Ariel or a female Doctor, millions who would never seek out an unknown indie film suddenly see that representation on the biggest possible stage. Fame is leverage and a swap borrows it immediately. Then the impact can it bring is one, it can pump up the possibilities for the movie to succeed. Looking at the company's perspective, using a character that has been known worldwide once, it will be more plausible in the succeeding. Secondly, there will be significant influences to the audiences because when an entirely new character has a minority background, people would often look at it with just like, oh, there's just an indie. But when a legendary character suddenly delivers new backgrounds, it'll be more efficient on changing people's minds because they only thought of Ariel as white, but she turns out as black, and they will be more shocked, but also much more inspired. And our second argument is about the empowerment of actors. We believe that the movie studios have a responsibility, or at least a duty, to make diverse films for the audience because firstly, they have spent decades making stereotypical films that mocks diverse people. So now they have the responsibility to reverse the racism in films and introduce new diverse content to the audience. Because most movies are targeted towards children, the movie studio has a responsibility to protect children from racist natures and traditional hatred towards minorities. So why do studios have an incentive to help diverse minorities? Because society wants to see them modernize, less stereotypical films. Nowadays, education and culture have changed to allow and embrace different types of people, so movies that picture diversity will be much more wanted. Um, why are legacy characters
Time's
a
up.
good way to portray this? Uh, yes, thank you.
Okay, guys, the opposition's entire argument is actually based on the idea that minority characters can only make an impact if they borrow the popularity of an existing legacy character. We completely reject that idea, okay? If the only reason people pay attention to a minority character is because they replaced someone who was already famous, then that character is never valued for who they truly are, right? Overall, opposition says people will be shocked and inspired when a legendary character changes race or background. But that shock is exactly the problem here. Instead of celebrating the diversity, the public just spends months arguing about whether the character should have been changed at all or not, right? The conversation becomes about the casting in its entirety, not having heroes that succeed on their own, right? They have to inherit someone else's legacy just to be noticed. We believe that minority of the children, they actually deserve way much better than that. They deserve the original heroes who they are already with their own stories, identity, and achievement, right? heroes that have become legend because of who they are, not because someone replaced someone else, right? That creates a genuine confidence and lasting representation, while oppositions will only create temporary attention. Now, I'm gonna extend my case from RPM, right? So when movie studio change a major part of that identity, they are no longer respecting the original character. They are changing the very thing, the core thing that makes people love them in the first place. Imagine if Coca-Cola suddenly changed the logo every time for a few years, every time it would slowly lose the image that people
POI.
recognize, right? Yeah.
Both sides are for new stories, but only proposition is exclusively against remakes. Why is Miles Morales in the Spider-Verse so popular then?
I'll answer that later in my speech. All right. So legacy characters actually work the same way here. Their identity is their brand, right? Like once you keep changing that brand, it becomes weaker and less meaningful over time, right? This matters because people do not become attached to a character's title alone. They become attached to the complete image and story that has been built over many years, right? Once the studio decide that these traits can definitely be changed, whether it's convenient or not, there's no longer identity of that character. It loses meaning because nothing about the character is permanent like now, right? Opposition, yeah, they may argue that changing the character creates more diversity. However, changing an existing character is not genuine representation of the character. It actually shows that the studio would rather rewrite success characters than invest in creating the new ones, right? Instead of building original hero with the unique backgrounds and stories, they simply reuse an popular character. That is, yeah, an easier option, not the better one. So now, my second argument is that over time it persuades laziness on the movie studios. The biggest problem with opposition's world is that they reward laziness, right? Under their view, movie studios, they no longer have to put the effort to create new heroes or to tell new stories. They think oh, why spend years building a brand new character when you can simply take an already famous one, change their identity, and instantly gain attention? That is their view, and I'm here to say that opposition gives studio an excuse to remove these old characters instead of investing in the creativity. This impacts everyone. It hurts everyone. Writers are going to be discouraged from developing fresh ideas because studios know that the easiest way to make money is just to keep changing the existing characters already, right? Basically, they're just creating an excuse to avoid hard work, right? The impact here is clear. Their world create an entertainment industry that is afraid to innovate, to change these characters. No, to create new characters. Every time diversity is needed, the studios will simply just change another legacy character instead of creating something original. That means fewer new characters. It will also have fewer new stories, fewer icons. Opposition doesn't encourage creativity. They just reward recycling of these
Time's up.
characters. Supremely proud to propose. Thank you.
As the DLO to today's debate, but before I start with my main rebuttals, I'll start doing an extension of our second argument about the empowerment of actors. So first of all, why do studios have an incentive to help diverse minorities? The society wants them to be modernized at less stereotypical films. Nowadays, education and culture has changed to allow embrace different kinds of people, so the movies that picture diversity will become more wanted. Reputation for movie studios are a very big value. As more movies are rising up, studios are pressured to take an adaptive diversity films. So then why are the legacy characters a good way to portray this? It tells the audience a girl can do this too. A black person can have rights too. Since older traditional movies that are loved, like Snow White or Cinderella, were created in an era where certain people did not have such rights, it can misrepresent the minorities in the modern age. So adapting to these films to say that these minorities can do this too is an effective and inclusive way to build an audience. And also, the Spider-Verse is, of course, they're not lazy. Like, movie studios are not lazy. Miles Morales is not Peter Parker, is a totally new Spider-Man, and wildly popular. Both sides like new stories. Both. The problem is that is contradictory. They're limiting new thinking, they're stubborn, and that's why they're losing. And DPM, and this is literally, the DPM literally said to us that they would answer her POI about the Miles Morales case, but they never did. So they talk about movie studios being lazy, but of course this is not true. They'll still put a lot of energy into animating. The quality of animating will be very, very high, and to make the animating movie very, very high, because of course if you do it lazily, then obviously the public can know. And also Also, the fact that this like kind of news story takes decades like working hard, I think that's the problem, which I'll explain later in my rebuttals. So first of all, why do minorities actually want actual inclusion inside society? How can we actually achieve this? So first of all, in the government side, if they make like a movie studio makes a character they've never even heard of, will they feel like they're included in society? I don't think so, because they'll kind of feel like they're actually using a weird random character instead of actually using a character that audience actually feels touches by. And in our side, they make the most well-known character in the world into looking just like them. Of course, this is much more touching for the children. The direct quote for the DPM was, "Minority children deserve better." Well, they don't have a right to say that. In our side, we make minority children have much better emotions. They literally see Snow White and Ariel and like I don't know Prince Charming as looking just like them. Of course, this is much more touching for them. For minority children, not like the controversy, they don't care about that, right? For the minority children who are like the most vulnerable stakeholders inside the debate, they don't have confidence. They don't have confidence about their identity. They get constant criticism and stereotypes and like attacks from the public. For them, controversy does not matter. For them, the memory that like these kind of really pretty, beautiful characters look just like them, that memory itself is very, very important. And also, when you remake a movie, nothing is off. Nothing is really off. You actually look back at yourself. This is because like this is mostly true for like people who are actually racist. These kind of people don't actually know they're racist, right? They don't, or else they wouldn't have done this wrong act if they actually knew it was wrong. But how now that they see Ariel and they see that something is off, they're shocked by it. Now they think, oh wait, how have I been seeing Ariel in this like kind of beautiful woman? And also these kind of minorities and minority children are urgent. Original movies take decades to make, and yet these kind of children are getting attacked because of their identity right now. This is a very urgent problem, and because this kind of new character takes like a few years to make, and they take at least like 6 years to actually make the storyline itself. I think that itself, the fact that they're working hard, I think we can flip this and say that this is actually bad for these kind of minorities. And they also talked about how like companies should care about reputation. But however, I think this is wrong. This is wrong or not important in many layers. First of all, it's principally unjust for them to care about these kind of reputation. As our Elo said, movie studios have made stereotypes for decades, so they have an obligation to actually change these kind of stereotypes that they have made. And also, backlash is temporary. Once like these kind of remake is very normalized throughout society. Like for example, like women being main characters were really absurd.
Tell me a favorite childhood character. You didn't just watch them, you grew up with them. Every time you hear their name, you picture the same person who made your childhood special. Changing their identity can feel like changing a piece of those memories. Now imagine the studio suddenly changes the character's gender, race, or background. It doesn't feel like the same person anymore. It feels like a piece of your childhood has been rewritten. Judge, trust me, you don't even like rewritten characters yourself. Rebutting on the first speaker, she said that the way the movie studio changed Ariel from white to black made people more inspired. I'm sorry, what? You don't even see how much hate Disney gets from doing that. And it's not about racism. It's about how they have changed the legacy character that is already perfect. And rebutting on the second speaker, she said that movie studios gets pressured into being more diverse, and by remaking movies is the best way. No, this isn't true. Remaking movies gets even more hate than making new ones. Don't you see how much hate remake movies are getting now? You are escaping the truth. She also said that if you remake movies that the characters are black, they will get even more hate and no one will notice them. But this isn't true because there's actually a black character, a black princess, which is called Tiana, which is also a very
POI.
no, thank you. No. Opposition also assumes that minority children can only feel confident when we change existing legacy characters. We disagree. Minority children deserve heroes they can truly call their own, not heroes that borrow someone else's identity. Changing Ariel or Snow White only creates temporary attention and controversy. Instead, studios should create brand new minority characters with their own stories and achievements. That gives children role models they can be proud of because they became icons on their own, not because they replaced someone else. That's real representation, not recycled representation. And moving on to my clashes, clash 1, creating new icons versus changing old ones. When people think of a legacy character, they already have a picture in their mind. They remember how the characters look like, acted, and make them feel. That picture is part of their childhood. By changing a legacy character's identity is ruining it. So, looking into this clashes, government definitely wins. Clash 2, which side is better for the movie industry? So, if you change a movie's race, gender, or background, of course people aren't gonna like it because they already have that perfect image of the person they're talking about. And by perfect, I'm not saying that the character have to be white. They can be black, like Tiana. And Tiana is also a really, really pretty princess character, and which a lot of people also love, which means that this debate isn't about racism, and it's about like the picture we have in our mind, like our childhood memories, which if we make if we focus on creating entirely new original characters rather than changing the gender, race, or background of existing legacy characters, will make people love it more. And then when people love it more, then they will buy more tickets to go and see it in the cinema. That means that the movie industry will get more money and they will be even more successful. So, if movie studios truly want more diversity, then create someone new. Give us brand new heroes with their own stories, personalities, and cultures. Instead of changing the heroes we already have, let's create the next generation of heroes. Thank you.
So first, I'm going to talk about two things in Middle East. So first, I'm going to talk about the representation of minorities in the debate. And the second, I'm going to talk about which studios do actually people love more and which movies are they more likely to look at. So I think both sides agree that both sides agree that representation is very important. But the government focuses more on the joy people feel when watching an original or remade video. So first, I think representation is very important for two reasons. First, because it changes how people view the minority. For example, from Wicked, Cynthia, the actor from the Wicked Witch of Red, she changed how people view about the person who creates like a totally new backstory, and she also kind of like when people who are famous such as her speak out for Black minorities vote, then obviously there'll be a much bigger impact. So second, I think that there's a lot of rising movements that kind of pressure these kind of movie studios to make movies that actually help these minorities in the first place. So then, why do movie studios actually help these minorities representation? So I think that these movie studios, we already told you that movie studios also have a very big responsibility in cleaning up the mess they made when they have already used these very big stereotypes in the movies they have made right now until now. So I think that the modernized the society also encourages a lot of diversity, because we are learning a lot in education about how Black people are the same as us, how we should not discriminate anyone, and that we are all equal, and therefore we should also give these minorities a chance to kind of shine in the media. So this debate comes down to who serves the representation of these minorities better. So the government says that people love new things. They don't like originals. No, they like the originals. But I have two responses to this. First, I think that there's no guarantee that a new movie is always fun, because even if a new movie is already made, it doesn't mean that it's always 100 fun, because most of the time, like movies also can be very not fun. So second, even if it is fun, I think it doesn't have a real meaning. Like for example, if it's something about diversity or something about like school bullying of Black people, then obviously this serves a real meaning that people are more likely to watch. So which side actually helps representation better? So I think the exclusivity of remade movies is that because traditional stories last so much longer, new movies only last a little long. Like a movie that was super popular 2 years ago, it isn't popular right now. However, traditional stories like Snow White or Cinderella are popular the whole time. So on the premise that both movies help the representation of minorities, ours has a much more lasting impact. Also, they talk about how memories are ruined on the people's mind because it's their childhood.
However, if you compare this with the diversity being harmed, I think this farly outweighs some people feeling sad about their childhood memories, right? From the beginning, the scale of people supporting our movie is much larger than people supporting a new movie that is made from scratch. So whether our movies are fun or not, the attention it gets from the beginning is very high. So why is the attention very good? I think we can flip this and say that even when people criticize our movies for including non-white people, this itself tells us how much stereotypes have impact on the society right now. This allows controversies, checks and balances, and more people to actually talk about how to help these minorities. The second, so which studios do people actually love more? I think people love studios that adapt to the modern world much more right now because it means that they're embracing new culture and new diversity, right? So they also love new plots because there's so many movies that have covered that most of the stories right now. So how these movie studios actually capture the interest of these people? They create new plots with traditional stories because people never expected that turn. They never expected Snow White to turn into some Latin American person, right? Therefore, they enjoy the story much more. The government keeps on pushing to the point that people will lose their childhood memories and therefore they will hate the remade movies. A, it's not like the original one just disappears when a remade movie is out. It just gets more famous because people watch it again and again to compare it with the new one that is out. So B, so the government is not making new movies that helps the vulnerable stakeholders because they are afraid to anger the citizens of like making their childhood memories sad or something. Which we already said that these which we already said this is better because this causes discourse that helps with minorities speak out. They say that this debate is not about racism. It is because the point is that we help minorities represent themselves throughout this whole media thing. And thank you.
Judge, what inspires people and what makes their stereotypes to be moved is unexpected changes. If you just randomly create entirely new characters, that has no meaning for for the public. However, if you have only thought about Ariel as a white person as a child, but then Ariel turns up as a black character and is also the same, so pretty and so inspiring, that makes people genuinely inspired. Today's debate comes down to two main issues. Firstly, is the new icon something that gives actual influence to the public? Our side proved lots of times that's when we replace original characters. We already have built-in audiences. We are ready to change people's minds and inspire them. What came from the government was that it shocks people and it abolishes the original character, so what's wrong? And then people feel sad that their original character just changed. Well, we already proved that this has no less likelihood than the influential things that we actually provide to the public. And we say that we try diverse ways to change stereotypes, not just say that, oh, we should just make a new one. Secondly, who actually gives empowerment to ordinary people? Government has no shocking experiences to ordinary people because they just come up with a new character, while we actually relate to the people who have watched Snow White from a young age, who have liked Superman from a young age, to actually have wider visions in the future. Judge, what we are saying today is that we encourage media conglomerates to influence the public with remade, inspiring icons. Nobody cares about a random character that suddenly was created. They're mind blown and moved genuinely when their legacy is diversified and tolerant regarding lots of points of views. Thank you.
A character doesn't become iconic because of their race. They become iconic because of their story and their connection they build with the audience. That's why original diverse characters have a better chance of becoming beloved than rewritten legacy characters. Now, let me talk about some main flaws inside opposition here. All right, so one thing they have failed to rebut one of our points here, which was that like originality. We have talked about this multiple times already, and they have not fully rebutted this. Now, this argument still stands, as we have told you multiple times that more people would be interested, and that the first speaker said that remakes were just repeats, and no one would be interested in something that kept repeating over and over. And now another thing they have done is that they haven't actually proven why their like side couldn't have different alternatives, as their side is supposed to push for focusing on remakes with a change of gender and race. While my third speaker has given an alternative to instead creating a new thing, which shows that their thing, there is already an alternative to it. So their side doesn't even stand because there is another choice on their side. While on our side, we have proven why our side is unique, why our side is authentic, that we have memories on our side, and memories cannot be changed. If you tarnish a memory, it is tarnished forever. As a memory, it stays with you. You remember it for the rest of your life, especially something as big as a character from a movie like Snow White, for example. And if you take someone to watch something that's different, it's not about racism, and it never was about race. It was just that it was different for something it originally was. It was just that it isn't the same. We're not saying that we are stopping like race. We're not saying that we are preventing racism, as we are saying that we can create new movies with different races, with different plans, different ideas, but an originality. Instead, when we could just leave the original characters alone, our side has as their side keeps on arguing racism, we have been able to compromise to their side, and while also keeping our side with its uniqueness and its speciality. It's something you can't replace simply with what they have said. Thank you.